Hi everyone, welcome back to Car Project Central. Today we are going to be tackling the oil leak on the Audi A3. So it looks like it's just a sump oil leak, and so we're just going to renew the gasket around the sump. These cars, they don't actually come with a sump gasket, you have to use Gasket Maker. I'll show you that product in a second. So what we're doing at the moment is we're just draining the oil and making sure that there's no more oil in the sump, and then we can pull the whole sump off. Which will involve cleaning that up as well and cleaning up all the seals. That's the oil draining on the sump. You can see the sump's really oily, especially around that join area where the sump joins the rest of the engine. So it's a very common problem on these old VW Audis. So we're going to have to undo all of those bolts holding the sump on, and then just redo all the gasket material. But yeah, we'll just let the oil drain for now and come back and remove those bolts. You just have to undo some of these bolts on the side of the sump. The sump is actually attached to the rest of the frame using these bolts. And then obviously undo all the bolts that attach the sump to the engine as well. You can see all these bolts, they need to be undone. That side, and this side as well. Bunch of bolts everywhere that need to be undone. So we've already started undoing some of those. And then once we're done, I'll show you the actual oil pan. Cool, so this is the sump taken off. You can see there's quite a few different bolts that you need to remove to get the sump off. It's quite a time consuming job actually, but there it is, it's all off. So this is the gasket maker that we're using on the Audi. It's a Permatex product, it's quite common. This one's actually a high temperature one, so this is red. I would recommend using this one if you are doing anything around the engine area. So at the bottom of the engine there does seem to be a gasket that goes all the way around the sump. It's not really a gasket, it's more like just a layer of plastic. But we have called Qualitat and they've informed us that what we assumed was correct is that there is no gasket that you can buy that you can actually service this car with for the sump. So that's why we're using the gasket maker to take the role of the gasket that you would otherwise buy. I have actually had a VW Passat before and it had a very similar gasket setup, sump setup. So we're just going to put in the gasket maker and we'll show you how to do that, and it should be all good to go after that. So just spray a large amount of degreaser onto a clean cloth and wipe down the surface. You want to make sure that you get all of that oil off the surface, because if there's any oil that is still on the surface when you put on the new gasket, it probably won't seal properly. So you want to make sure that it's nice and dry like that and nice and clean, and go all the way around the whole entire oil pan mounting area, and also do the same thing for the oil pan itself so it's nice and clean. There's also an oil level sensor for these sumps, so you just want to make sure that you tighten this up, put it back in if you've taken it off when cleaning the sump. Awesome, so we've cleaned up this side of the sump as well, and everything's looking good. We've taken the gasket maker nozzle and cut it open, and now we're just applying the gasket maker to the sump. You have to kind of do this a little bit quickly because otherwise the gasket goo will actually dry, so just try and be quick about it, and also make sure everything's ready to go back onto the car. Okay, so this is what the gasket should look like once you're all finished. So you just want to make sure that it's all spread evenly as much as possible around your sump. Try not to have any holes or any areas where the gasket's not going to go, and just make sure it's nice and even. Don't apply too much, but it doesn't have to be the tidiest job ever, because it's all going to get squashed into the engine anyway. So there you go. Now we're going to put it back in. Okay, so we're starting to do up some of these bolts. Just a few to be really careful with. There's a couple of bolts, or 3 bolts actually, that are on this side of the sump, basically right next to the transmission. This is the transmission. And these are real difficult to do up, because if you get it wrong, then you basically drop them into this little gap in here. So you really have to be very careful when you're doing these up, and make sure you thread them properly and don't drop them. So we'll do up the rest of the plugs, and it should be all good to go. Okay, we're going to change the oil filter at the same time. So the filter is right in front of the sump in this plastic housing. It's a little bit difficult actually, but we'll get it out and then change for a new filter. So a little trick when changing the oil filter. What is this thing?
I have no idea.
Whatever this is, we haven't actually figured out what this is. It's actually mounted just to this little subframe next to the oil filter housing, and it's really easy to remove. So you just got to lift it up and remove that, and then the oil filter will come out. Our oil filter looks like that. So yeah, it's definitely time for a change in the oil filter. Okay, so there's a black gasket that goes into the filter housing. You want to make sure you remove that as well. It's very hard to see actually, because most of the time it'll be black because of the old oil, but make sure you remove that and put in the new gasket. Sweet, so that's the new gasket installed, and also the new filter inside the filter housing, and we're just going to put that back into the filter housing. Alright, chucking in some new engine oil into the A3. So I think we drained around about 4.5 litres. So around about 4 litres, I'm going to start checking the dipstick to make sure that we don't overfill, make sure the level is correct. We've also lowered the car again so that it's at normal level. And now just making sure that the engine oil is filled up correctly. And you can just see, it's not focusing. You can just see that there's enough oil in there in the car when you look at the dipstick. So that should be all good.